Alrighty. Hey gang. Welcome back, you guys. Here we are. Um, I'm flustered right now. So I just turned on to start this thing up and YouTube changed everything and it would not let me go back to the old screen. Apparently today's the day. They're forcing you to use the new studio. I've got little notifications popping up. And so I had to change my stream code. So you guys notice I started streaming. It wouldn't let me. I couldn't see that other stream. I couldn't find the chat. It totally screwed me up. And now, I'm sorry, I'm complaining. Winker pussy, what's up? Hey Leon, how are you guys? Anyways, all good now. You guys can see me. I can see you. I think I can see you chatting. Give me a sec here. Let me. Man, I wish I could get rid of the picture of me looking back at me there. Um, it's okay. I don't mind cats there, Winker. Nice to see you. So anyways, welcome you guys. Welcome back. Happy Wednesday. How's everyone doing? Welcome back to Stove Chat. So I'm going to give everyone a minute or two to catch up with the stream. I think when I usually stream with another stream key. So when YouTube did that, they gave me a whole new stream key. So I don't know if this has my title, if it still says Stove Chat 20. It screwed everything up. I'm frustrated. Sorry. I'll get over it in just a minute. So Stove Chat. How's everyone doing out there? You guys doing well? You guys got some summertime going on? Me too. It's been awesome. I've been getting some surf lately. Haven't been thinking about stoves much at all. I mean, you guys have been keeping me in the game, but I've been having a nice little run this last week. So hope you guys have been too. Hope you guys have been enjoying it. Maybe getting firewood up or doing some other firewood chores. So this week we've got a ton of stuff to go over, you guys. It is, I guess we're getting close. So everyone's starting to work on their stoves. So Winker, I have coast. It's hard to explain. The Pacific Ocean is like 60 miles to the west of me, but the Straits of Juan de Fuca are just at the end of my rural road here. So 2 miles down the road is, saltwater beach with surf sometimes. There was yesterday. There probably is right now, actually. And so I can surf and just, I can ride my bike down there and go for a surf, go to the beach. It's a river mouth, so I got the river right there as well, big river, and then the mountains right behind me. So I'm super kind of close to all of my favorite things, which is pretty much why I'm here. For sure. But yeah, the actual coast is about 50 miles, 50, 60 miles. Seattle's about the same, a little bit farther the other direction to the east by ferry. It's pretty sweet. Pretty nice out here for sure. So I wonder if everyone else is going to catch up with me. I don't know, like I said, what happened with the titling on that stream deal. But hey, there you are, Walt. Right on. Okay. I'm sorry about that beginning. I think I might have thrown a bunch of people off. It usually streams to one, whatever. I don't know how YouTube works anymore. So anyways, hey you guys, let's get into it, man. We got a ton of emails to go through, which is cool, and I'm super excited. A lot of you guys have been sending in some great questions. I've got some photos of an awesome build and a great review of a cooking build, and a few other tidbits here and there. So I'm not sure if Tall Shadow and Belgian Gulch are here today. We got some stuff to go over from them. Hey Doug, nice to see you, man. Glad you're here. No, it was me, or it wasn't me. It was YouTube. They changed everything. Today's the day they're forcing me to switch to a different screen. Apparently, it's all black. You can see the chat is black now. I couldn't change that. I can't change anything. Yeah, Mark, glad you're here. I know. I've been complaining about it ever since YouTube screwed everything up for me. My bad. I streamed on the one thing and then it wouldn't let me. I couldn't see it on my end because they were only sending me this one page. So anyways, I'm going to give it a minute. You guys will all catch up here, but I'm glad you're here. I'm flustered. I'm getting over it though. So okay, we got some great stuff, you guys. We got some really cool photos. We got some people building stuff. Just some really good things going on. So one of the first things I wanted to talk about today, which I think is really great, actually. Oh, Leon, you can see I can see a guy. He says I can see a guy waiting on your old stream, and chat has been disabled. Yeah, I'm so sorry, you guys. I knew that, so I would. Basically, what happens is when you stream, they give you a code and you put it in your little streaming thing, and then it streams to that YouTube page. Well, I've had that same code for the last, whatever, 19 weeks. And today, when I click to go to their live stream page, they're like, new YouTube live studio. Can't use the old one anymore. In the past, then you could just click and use the old one. And so it changed the code, and so it's changing where it's streaming to. So I think that old fork is done. I'll probably have to, I don't know if the picture has changed and all that. Yeah, that was me. So I streamed to that one anyways. And while you guys could see it, I probably would have been streaming fine. I couldn't, they wouldn't let me get to it on my end. Yeah, anyways. Can you tell I'm frustrated? Let's talk about stoves. Let's talk about stoves. So this first topic, it's not really a question, it's just a topic, and this comes from Augustus. And Augustus, man, thanks so much for your emails this week. Really, really appreciate all your support. And this is really, he just brought up a really good topic for us to talk about. And he brought up Peter Vandenberg's latest posting on his batchrocket.eu website, in which he discusses the importance of right angles and other airflow properties. Hey, Pablo, right on. Good to see you, man. Glad you're here. We got some stuff to go over for sure with you as well. So, I just made the mistake of trying to click on Peter's page, so hopefully this doesn't drop the stream. As a matter of fact, I'm probably going to close it because it doesn't seem like it's going right there. So I'm going to close it, and I'm just going to talk about it from memory. But at any rate, in that article, Peter is... Hey, there you are, Augustus. I was just starting to talk about Peter's latest posting regarding right angles in the stove and things like that. And so I just tried to click on it actually to read from it and to talk about it, but I think my internet probably isn't going to handle that. So I'm just going to discuss it from memory. I read it a few weeks ago when he first posted it. So when you asked me that question, I haven't reviewed it since then, so I might get it wrong. So feel free to open it up and prompt me if you don't mind with questions specifically about that. But I'm going to talk about sort of the overall, just kind of where he's coming from with that, because I know we haven't spoken since he's done that, but I know because we were together actually when those principles were becoming apparent, and he's just now finally getting around to sort of placing it in a concrete form for the rest of the world to know. But those of us who are participating on Donkey's board at that time, it was when we were doing a lot of R&D. It was right during my trip to Washington, D.C. for the Wood Stove Decathlon, the Popular Mechanics and Department of Energy competition thing, dealy that I was a part of. It was right during all that time. So that was like 2013, 2014. And the reason I remember this is because it all came together kind of around that Wood Stove Decathlon. So here's the story. Oh man, I could do this forever. I'll try and keep it concise. Peter, at the time, it was maybe 2012, Peter has just sort of released the first iteration of the batch box, which I don't think has changed much, to be honest. The secondary air, my contribution, sort of changed the direction of that, and I think that might actually be the most significant change. But at any rate, the change... I'm sorry, I'm catching up on the comments there. Okay, Vance, nice. No worries, my friend. No worries. Nice to see you here. Thanks for being here. This is going to get a little technical, you guys. It might be kind of boring, but maybe not. So, Peter's batchbox design was just becoming sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? He really nailed it down. He said, okay, here's the appropriate size, and I figured out all the parameters, what we can change, what we can't change, and he'd kind of put it into a concrete form. And I built one as a test for myself. I was already living with my rocket mass heater, and so I built that batch box and then I started to try and come up with the way to make it into like a box stove, like portable. And that creation that stemmed from that was what I brought. It was the stove that got me entered into that Popular Mechanics competition, and it's what I brought to Washington, D.C. So I was kind of working off of Peter's brand new design and sort of trying to bring it into the masses in a format that was easily accessible, easy to sell, easy to install. So I had my concept there. Well, concurrently with me doing that was Sandy, a very, very nice woman who's become someone I've communicated with much over the years, and I really appreciate her approach. She from Dragon Heaters, and she took Peter's batchbox design and she started to do, so she had, prior to that, she had taken his J2 and she had purchased, and I don't know how they worked the deal out, but she had sort of the exclusive, whether it was licensing or I don't think it was a patent, but I think she had the exclusive rights to build and sell that, or to sell it, I guess, commercially in the United States, his J tube. So her Dragon Heater J's were Peter's original sort of optimized J. It was just like Larry Winiarski's J, and then Peter, did some tweaks. He smoothed out some corners, added his secondary air, and did some different things and made it optimized. I don't remember what all they were, like the tripwire, now that I'm thinking back on it, little stuff. Anyways, going into details. So Peter's got his brand new batch box, hasn't been optimized yet, just built, dimensions nailed down. I've got one that's pretty much true to form. I'm going to bring to Washington, D.C. Sandy also gets a nomination or whatever, wins this, thing to go to Washington, D.C. She spends her prototyping time. I spend mine, testing my stove. She spends hers. I don't really know what she did, but I do know that what she did was she took Peter's batch box and came up with her own casting, and in doing so she made some refinements that involved, they used flow modeling software, and she tried to, had her engineers, I don't know if it was her or engineers, tried to reduce friction, tried to increase velocity everywhere in the core. They rounded corners and did all these things that you would think would make the core go faster and have less restriction and run better. So there are a lot of the same things that Peter did to the J that did make it better. So she wasn't just kind of shooting in the dark. She was sort of working on what we all sort of assumed would be better. Well, we start getting closer and closer to the time to go to Washington, D.C., and Sandy starts emailing me, and she starts to post a little bit on the forums and saying, this thing isn't working very well. And she, at the time, we're not really tuned in on the tweaks she'd made. We're just kind of tuned in on the batch box because it's new. Well, we went down that road for a while, and eventually came to the conclusion, I don't remember, it's been quite a few years now, but came to the conclusion that and I think Peter said, if I remember correctly, he said he had spoken to some of his aeronautical or aerodynamic, hydrodynamic engineer, associates, and had come to the conclusion that, which makes, all the sense in the world to me, especially relating it oddly enough to surfboard design, and I can go more into detail there, but it was pretty obvious to me pretty early on, to be honest with you, because I had spent a lot of time. As a kid, I built all these boards to tow behind my boat because we couldn't surf in the lake. I'm a surfer. I was even before I could surf, and so I was always trying to do it in the lake. And I learned about edge patterns and release and flow and all those things, and that's very, very important when you're talking about fluid dynamics, which is how stoves work. So, you guys still with me? I'm just rambling. Augustus, are you there? Are you getting anything out of this? Let me know, please, because I feel like I might be way off on a tangent. I'm not. I've pretty much already covered it. But the gist of it is basically that we talked about boundary layer. When flow is adjacent to a surface, it's going to have a near, the friction adjacent to the surface. Okay, thanks you guys. Thanks, Tutrance. Nice to see you. So, the air closest to the surface, or the liquid closest to the surface, is going to be sort of bonded to it with friction. And then as you move out, you've got reduced friction and higher speeds and, slower speeds as you get in closer. That's the boundary layer. So when we make surfboards, let's see, I'm looking for a piece of paper or something. When we make surfboards, we look for rounded edges up in the front part of the board, so that as the board's riding on the face, the water sliding up the board kind of wraps around, sticks to the board, right? And wraps around that rail and kind of ends up sucking the board into the wave. But where you want to turn, you make a sharp edge, because when the water hits that sharp edge, if it's a rounded corner, the water's going to, this boundary layer, that surface tension is going to stick the water to the corner, and it's going to whoosh around the corner. But if you have a sharp edge, it just shoots right off. So it's a big difference. You could have air or fluid shooting this way or this way off of your surface, depending just on the shape of this edge, whether it's rounded or whether it's acute. Hey, Ray. Nice to see you, man. The dragon heater. This is not a downside to the dragon heater. Well, did you have a dragon heater batch? I don't remember if you. I thought you had a dragon heater J. The J's were great. I don't think she ever built the batch boxes, because it turned out they didn't work very well because of this deal. So at any rate, Peter's new post on his website talks about how rounded corners in certain places of the cores seem like they would be a good idea, but they're a bad idea. And that's exactly what Sandy discovered inadvertently through her experimentation. And that's what Peter's referring to, is that in the port, for instance, which is really the crucial place where we're talking about, in the port, and particularly at the exit. So it's not that important at the entrance, although there is a little bit of release there. And if you smooth it, you would just have gases sort of rushing down the firebox walls and rushing in, as opposed to what they're doing now, which is anything that's rushing down the firebox wall is going to hit that, and there's going to form a rotor behind it, right? A little area of low pressure. It's going to swirl this way with all those other gases moving through there. That gives you another mixing element. Hey, Charlie. Welcome, man. Thanks for being here all the way from South America. That's awesome to see you here. So, and then on the back side of the port, even more importantly, now those, that's where you'd think, oh yeah, I'm going to smooth these corners out. It's going to be great. Unfortunately, you do that and you wreck the number one mixing element, turbulence factor in the rocket batch box, which is the double ram's horn, dual toroid, dual vortex, whatever you want to call it, that happens in the bottom of the riser. So if you round those corners, boundary layer sticks the gases out there, now you just got it flowing around the riser. Doesn't work at all. You got to retain those sharp edges so the airstream peels off of that sharp edge. You get low pressure behind it, right? Creating that rotor, just like what crashes airplanes going over mountains. That low pressure behind them, making that rotor. Same thing, horizontally, like this. And that's how we get our double ram's horn, vortex, whatever you want to call it. And that's what really makes them work. It slows the escape of the gases in the riser because they stall out horizontally, much like a funnel, what's his name? Fibonacci? Is that the one? Anyways, you know what I'm trying to say. Slows it down because of that rotating factor, mixes it, keeps it in that hot zone. So that's the deal. That's the whole thing with Peter's right angle post. It isn't a hard and fast rule that applies to everywhere in a rocket stove. It doesn't apply to other cores, as Ray was just saying. So Ray was saying, I hope the story ends well, because he's about to put his dragon heater in. And by the way, Ray, did I say hi? I'm so glad you're here, man. And that was awesome to see your video this week, dude. Thank you so much. So good to see you, my friend. Really, really cool. So anyways, the J does have a couple rounded corners. Peter spent a lot of time testing that, and he put them in places where it happens to help. So I'm not saying it's a hard and fast rule everywhere. As a matter of fact, I think it's not. But I am saying that if you see in a design that it looks a certain way, don't assume you can make it better by doing something that seems obvious or whatever. And the right angles are a big part of that. So I saw a question there from Doug. Doug says, is a 90-degree edge enough, or should it be an acute angle? Doug, it's really, it's actually, I believe it's more the shape of the, the edge, the break, than it is the actual angle. For instance, on the surfboards, sometimes you'll have areas in the rails where it's like round here, and they'll just put just a little break there. And there can be I'm sure elements of it. So, but I would say that probably even less than 90 if you have a hard edge, like there's a real, there's no radius on that thing. Like if you could make it out of paper thin materials and make it, just as sharp as can be, you can't, but just theoretically, that's really all you need. You could still be obtuse even, and it would still break out and leave that surface tension. But so yeah, I think 90, to answer your question, sorry, my long-winded nature, to answer your question, yeah, I do. I think that 90 degrees is plenty. So I'm going to go back up and try and catch up with some of the chat, you guys. Chili Expat Family says they're heating their house water and radiant heat with our one wood stove. Wow, that's a big heating task for one stove. So Dennis, nice to see you. Welcome. I'm glad to see you. I've been to Homer quite a few times, actually. Love it up there. Actually, I surf there. You might know my friend Jay there, or Scott, either one of those boys. Good place there. So Augustus says my riserless core has something like 6 right corners. Are they designed mostly around mixing, or some just to keep the convenient rectangular shape? Yes, Augustus. So right, you asked that question. I think it was you sort of specifically. And oh no, you know what's interesting, Augustus, is I got 2 emails, yours and another person, who sort of both were responding to Peter's posting in sort of response to my riserless core. You didn't specify it. He did. He said, I think your riserless core has this, and Peter said this, and those aren't, compatible, and it's, whatever. Anyways, the point is, and he got it. It sounds like you do too, is that one, you need to make sure you keep Peter's rules firmly in mind, that they are only rules in that specific instance, and he broke him already in his J to make it better, so it doesn't always apply. My riserless core has something like 6 right corners, so most of those right corners your question is, are they designed around mixing or convenience of the shape? And the answer is both. So the first one, the riserless core is really the firebox with kind of a burn tunnel adjacent to it after a 180-degree turn. It started as like this, and then I kind of got the broken riser, and then there was people experimenting with sidewinders that just were kind of like this, and I was like, how can we get the riser and the sidewinder? And so it's a lot of both. It's the shape and the mixing. But I'm going to tell you something that the other fella, Dominic, by the way, if you happen to download this, Dominic, thank you for your emails and awesome questions, awesome photos, awesome build. And this was a great, really astute observation on Dominic's part. He said, I don't, Peter says you have to have the port lower than ceiling height, and I don't see that in yours. And what's important to know about mine is that my port isn't actually the first 90-degree corner. That's just like a bonus mixing. So if you notice in the riserless core, if you have the plans, after that is a combustion chamber, and then there's a port which does have a lowered threshold and does have all of the elements of a port, including the hard 90s at the exit. Sorry, I looked at chat there and I got distracted. So what's the mixing elements? What's because of shape? Well, the riserless core was definitely an effort to put it into a format that was limited in height, and in doing so, I could either have made it really long or sort of square and compact. So, part of those corners come from that, but they all add to the mix, the mixing, the turbulence, and there is a balance there. I've actually tried multiple ports, spaced within there. I've tried a port at the entrance to the riser and a port at the exit of the riser, like a vertical mixing element. I've tried a bunch of different stuff, and you have to be careful. There's a balance, because each port type space or each corner, as going to Belgian Gulch's question, as Max told Belgian Gulch, each corner can present a restriction, so you do need to be a little bit cautious with corners. So, and by corners, those are two different things in some sense there, Augustus. One is a corner in the flue path, like the gases are actually turning the corner, and the other one is just the corners in the face of the port. The gases, in that case, aren't turning the corners, it's just a release point. So hopefully that makes sense. Man, I really got off on a whirl there. Let me catch up with you guys on the chat here. Permaculture Playground, thank you for being here. Yeah, I can't believe it's your first time either. We're on 20. I can't believe that. So glad that you guys are here. Belgian Gulch, glad you're here. Yeah, you can go back to the beginning and watch this one, Belgian Gulch. He says, made it, you were gone for a while. YouTube's just really messed me up today. I was really flustered. I forgot all about it now. So that's good. So David Swanson says, separation of a laminar boundary layer airflow is turbulence. Too much turbulence can lead to stagnation. Beautifully said, David, and that's exactly what we're going for. So, the right angle, thank you for the terminology, by the way, my educated friend, the right angles, like at the exit of the port, again, it's not a right angle in the flue path, it's just a right angle, the gases we kind of want to go straight, and so we put a right angle where we want them to release. What that does is it gives us a separation of a laminar boundary layer, right? Just like David says, and we get turbulence. Separation of laminar boundary layer is turbulence. Too much turbulence can lead to stagnation. Now I'm going to just, too much is sort of a value judgment, so I'm just going to say turbulence can lead to stagnation. It's exactly what we want in the bottom of the riser. Remember I said it stalls it out and it gives us more time in the combustion zone? That's what we want. We want stagnation, right? We want that turbulence. David Swanson says, think of a bed of a pickup, the swirling air behind the cab. I just saw an awesome little clip of an example of that. Maybe you guys have seen it. It was making the rounds. The cooler flipping out of the box truck and flipping back in. Did you guys see that? It's a styrofoam cooler. Box truck driving down the road with the roll-up open, and this styrofoam cooler keeps flipping out, and then it'll flip all the way off the road, or maybe, I can't remember if it goes all the way how far, but it's out of the truck. And then it flips back in, and does that like 3 or 4 times. It's really cool. And so, yeah, that's a great example of a low-pressure area from laminar flow releasing. You get a rotor behind it, right? So there you go. So Chili Expat Family says, we have in-stove heating coils for our water, which we hear is illegal in the former USA. I don't know if that's true, Expat. I think that, I believe that all the laws for all that kind of stuff vary state to state with regards to what kind of solid fuel heating you can have and can't have. We definitely have wood-fired boilers in some states. They are illegal in my state. They're illegal here because of pollution concerns, but they're very popular in some parts of the country. So I'm not sure if that's true, but that it might be true somewhere, probably. We all put heating coils in our stoves anyway if we want to, I think, for the most part. Yeah, I don't think that's true, actually, because I actually see heating coils sometimes even offered in little commercial stoves and stuff. So Leon says, your core is the ultimate slow burn due to all the turns and horizontal movement, ultimate mix. Leon, I agree. Thank you. Thank you very much for that compliment. I agree. I mean, and that is, you guys have heard me say it many times, it's what I was looking for, maybe not the ability to achieve the highest efficiency out there, but the ability to burn at a very high efficiency, an acceptable efficiency through a broad range of burning styles, and in particular, one that it can do long and slow. Now, not low and slow like a box stove smoldering, but a rocket stove version of sort of a slower burn. So I really appreciate that. It does a really nice rendition of like a secondary air stove. You guys will find out, those of you building doors and stuff right now, you can play with the air settings a little more than I sort of let on. I'm trying to keep people in the efficiency range, but we all compromise that at some point for convenience. And you can make a really wicked secondary burn stove where you get it kind of shut down and you can see the things flashing off in the back of the stove, and it'll burn smokeless, and it's probably doing, well over what box stove efficiency is even in those ranges. So yeah, very cool. Thanks, Leon. Appreciate that. So, I should move on to the emails because I'm going to get stuck here, but let me just catch on. We're going to be here all day if I don't get moving. We got a lot of emails to go over this week. And yeah, Chili says he's specifically talking about wood stoves, not outside boilers. Interesting. Yeah, and I don't know, Chili. Like I said, I believe there are some stoves sold that way, but maybe not. You might be right. We do have a lot of those, like the Amish guys make those, the back piece on the stove that you put there for warming. But I don't know. Get a lot of people that I sell plants to put coils in them. I don't actually recommend that for the most part. My boiler has the coil in the tank, so but you know, whatever. So anyways, moving on. Let me see if I can get back to emails here, you guys. Okay, let's see. You know what we should go over is we should go over Belgian Gulch's door, because it's really cool, A, and B, he's getting a little bit of, he might be getting a little sidetracked. I want to make sure that doesn't happen. So let's pop over the photos here, and let's take a look, you guys. Check this out. This is awesome. Belgian Gulch, thank you so much for sending this stuff out. I love seeing it. So this is Belgian Gulch's build. Again, I'm going to forget the details. I think it's a, is it an 8-inch chimney and a 7-inch box? I think he built it around a 7-inch plan, and it's an 8-inch box. And so there is his door flange. Yeah, chili expat. It is common in some places, in other parts of the world. I do know that. I'm so glad to hear it's working well for you. That's really cool. Chili expat is talking about his heating coil in the firebox. It says it's common there in Chile. So here is Belgian Gulch's, yes, 7-inch batch box, 8-inch riser. So tweaking the levels a little bit. I always have said I think that's just fine. As long as, you know, you're smaller in the front end and bigger in the back, that tend to work out great. No comments from you there, Winker, my friend. So this is Belgian Gulch's door. And Belgian Gulch, I assume this is the external, and that is your door control. I think this is just an early photo. He hasn't got it assembled yet. We'll go through these here, and here we go, starting to build it up. Now what he's done is something pretty different. Hugh, good to see you, man. You go do what you got to do. Send me an email whenever you're ready. You know, whenever you want to go over your build, man, we'll tackle it. So this is Belgian Gulch's door. It's really cool, and he's done something really unique. So he lives somewhere he wanted it to be really. He wanted to be really sure that he was going to have no sparks flying out the door, no safety issues. So this air hole is actually in the upper part of the door, but according to all of our batch box design parameters, we want the air to enter that firebox down low. So he put this channel on the back of the door to route the air from that upper location down to this lower location. And so what that does is means any sparks from the firebox are going to have, you know, it'll be impossible basically for them to shoot out through that hole, because he's got air rushing in through there and a convoluted path to get out there. So it's going to be really safe, which I think is a great idea, by the way, Belgian Gulch. And here's another look at it. He's got a really nice channel there. He's probably going to land that on a rim, and it looks awesome, Belgian Gulch. Really good to see it here. Here it is, all coming together. So cool. Man, it's so awesome to see you guys working. Just like I thought, in between those two channels, he's got his fiberglass rope for a seal, and he's probably going to land that on a blade type seal. I'm assuming, or maybe you just left it proud and maybe it just seals flat against the flange face. There's a couple ways to do that. One is just to let that fiberglass sit up flat and rest flat against the flange. Another way is to weld a little like 1/4-inch bar all around that would interface into that trough, into that track in the door. And that makes a real good seal. So let's see, getting caught up with your guys' chat there. So, it's carbon or ceramic fiber blanket, same idea. Looks great, Belgian Gulch. So one of the questions that he had for me, here we go, getting into the good stuff here. Man, that looks so clean, dude. That's awesome. I love it. And so your handle, I don't know if you did what I did, but I'll tell other folks what I did. I went and bought one of those really cheap slag hammers at the welding shop. I want to say it was $3 or something. And you can chop off the hammer end with your cutoff wheel, and you can weld yourself up a really nice door. They make great door handles. So I don't know if that's a welding slag hammer handle, Belgian Gulch, but whatever you got it from, nicely done. Really looks awesome. And the cool thing about this is it's really stout. So I'm curious how you mounted it. I'm going to assume I can see your right angle flange here. Oh, it is a slag hammer handle. That's awesome. So, and I'm going to assume that you took this flange here that I can see I keep trying to point with my mouse. Oh, you can see my mouse. Yeah, so I'm assuming you took this flange on the side, and I'm assuming that you drilled into the side of this flange and then drilled into the face of the bricks there on the sides to mount that, to fasten it to the bricks. That's how I would have done it. Although you don't have a whole lot of body here, so although your bricks are going the long way, so they'd probably be sturdy enough to hold it. And what's replacing a brick if something should go wrong down the road? No big deal. So I'm assuming that's how you mounted it. It may not even be actually screwed in yet. I know you're early in this stage. But one of the things that Belgian Gulch wanted to talk about, he got a comment, someone saying, hey, watch out for those right angles in there, because you're going to potentially restrict the flow such that it's not going to flow as designed. And Belgian Gulch, while I talked about the right angles earlier as manifesting as restrictions, in this case I'm going to say don't worry about it. And the reason I say that is that the primary air, mainly we just want to make sure we have enough. You'll probably be trimming down how much air you give it as you learn to run it. It's hard without a window, to be honest with you, because then you're just really running by feel. But you probably aren't going to use all that. In other words, what I'm trying to say is you're designed with essentially it's essentially as designed, it's over aired. And you and I actually had a conversation about your secondary air, and we made the decision to go with the size that was slightly oversized anyway, if I remember correctly. So it's already designed such that for me, when I'm burning with my air settings, I'm often sort of restricting primary by some percentage. And so I don't think you're going to have any problems with that right angle in any form, significant restriction. The other thing is that the stoves, at least in the front end, it's just there's not much distance there. You're very close. I don't believe there's much restriction in that 6 or 8 inches. It almost doesn't really even act like a 90, if you get my drift, or at least it's not two 90s, because there's almost a straight shot through it at an angle. So I think that you're fine. It's oversized. I wouldn't worry about it at all. And sometimes people just like to post stuff because they want to have some input. I think that particular poster is, sometimes one of those, which is great. I love his style. Just saying, I wouldn't always, you're doing great is all I'm trying to say. That's it. So there's that one. So let's move on in the emails here, you guys. Getting through. Oh, you know what I really want to share with you guys? Let's see if I can get this up in the same window without screwing things up here. This is so cool. So this is from Dominic. And Dominic is in... Dominic, I apologize. I believe you're in France. But I honestly, there's a few of you right now in Portugal, France, and Spain who are building comparable type things, and I'm a little fuzzy on who's where. But I'm pretty sure Dominic's in France. He's not able to join us because he's on limited bandwidth in a rural spot. But he, you guys, has built one of the coolest iterations of my cooking facility cooking type stoves that I've seen. I'm so pleased with it, and he has been emailing me on a regular basis. His most recent email, I'll read to you after we look at the photos. So what he's done, this is an outdoor bread oven. That's his primary purpose. He's got these insulated, if I remember correctly, insulated type fire bricks. And he used these for the core. It's a riserless core type oven, very much like my barbecue brick oven. I don't actually remember. I think he built this, if I'm not mistaken, I think he built this just using pictures off of my website. I don't think he used any of my plans, which is something I always encourage. You guys might not have been aware of this, but I released my entire riserless core and all the slideshow of my full masonry stove build, and all of the information is out there for someone to build my stoves for free. That was my original intention. I never intended to make a design and keep it secret and sell the plans. But what happened was that I got so many requests on that first full masonry stove for people who wanted plans, and I kept saying, you know, the deal is I don't want another job, and so I just didn't want to make plans. You know, I was like, I put it out there for you. It's free. You could see all the pictures. I did it layer by layer, and so yeah. So anyways, long story short, all of the information is there to build my stoves without the plans. And David says I prefer the plans. And David, absolutely, I was wrong, you know, to not make the plans the first time. I realize that now. The plans have been so great because what they do is they get us in touch, right? Like, if you just email me and you're just building my stuff for free, I'm not going to be bummed, but I'm probably not going to spend much time, you know. That's not true. I do spend time consulting with those folks. They're just very few and far between. But if I was getting flooded with them, you know, basically when you buy the plans, you're buying my help as well. And the plans give you a lot more clarity. So don't worry, David. I appreciate that you guys prefer the plans. I'm not trying to talk people out of it. It's exciting for me whenever I see somebody sort of come out of the blue who just sort of built one. It makes me happy. So here it is, the riserless core. I mean, that's kind of funny, isn't it? I'm supposed to be trying to sell this stuff, and I get excited when people just do it. But anyways, this is the riserless core from the top view. You can actually see it looks exactly like the photos on my website. He did a really cool thing where he marked some gaps here, and so he could send me an email and say, hey, from A to B, what should it be? From E to F, you know, what are my dimensions? So he did a really, really neat job on the build here, and I really, really appreciate it. So here it is. Inside is these insulated bricks. He had to kind of do his own modifications around here with these empty hollow bricks to sort of build the shell, but he's building the shell have these hollow bricks. It's starting to come together there. And Leon, yeah, I did. I mean, Leon says, I noticed you already open sourced the plans and saw the pics on the website and all the videos. Yeah, I guess I just wanted to make people aware of that. Sometimes I feel, you know, I like to share stuff. I don't want to be someone who just like sells. You know, I like to share my knowledge. I like to share it freely, to be honest with you. It makes me feel good. I'm happy that people are willing to pay for it, and I try to make that option available because I'm realizing that it's wise. But at any rate, here is the oven part of his build, also using, I think, insulated type materials, although I'm not sure. They might be heavier. He's going to correct me, I'm sure. He'll check this out. Yeah, permaculture playground. It's a good thing to make plans. It really is. A lot of people really, really, you know. I mean, I get it. It feels great to have them sit there and look at them and let it soak in. So, anyways, I'm still looking at these photos. These are just some details I'm trying to find. This is where he used this. He used this mold to cast a top. Pretty neat way to do a cast top. He just cast it right in place, and then I'm assuming he either burned out or pulled out from the inside the wood there from the inside. So there's the top being cast. Built a really nice door here. Very cool. And here he is having a fire. You can see it whipping around the corner there. And there's the whole build. And that's, I think, the beginning of it. I think I might get even a little... Oh, no, I guess that's the end of it. Boy, I thought I had some more. Oh, no, he sent me some more. Hold on, you guys. Did I? Sorry, you guys. Bear with me. Oh, it says they're already in there. Okay, so let's see if I can go back and find earlier pictures. Maybe I didn't start early enough. They might have different names? No. Huh. I guess we looked at them all. Okay, so there's all the photos. Anyways, it's so cool, you guys. I'm so excited about it. The best thing about that one is that what he's been sending me, which I'm not doing a very good job of telling you about, is, let's see. I want to find what he wrote yesterday. Oh, here we go. This is what's exciting. It works great. Our propane bill has been dramatically reduced, and lots of branch wood that was not worth the work before is now useful. We have an endless supply that can be harvested with hand tools. As for the oven, man, this thing is insane. It's quite easy to get the oven up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit, and 9 hours later, it's at 175 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, and it bakes great bread. So, he's been sending me emails like that pretty regularly, and it's just so encouraging. Oh, wait, no, I don't know why I couldn't show you this photo. I'm going to see if I can get this somewhere where I can show it to you guys. Because frustrating. He covered it in mud, and it looks amazing. Let's see. Dominic, yes. Yes, I do. So it's asking me if I want to replace them. Sorry, you guys. And then when I go over here, for some reason, I just don't see them in there. There they are. Oh, I know what the deal is. I need to refresh the camera thing, maybe? Sorry, you guys. Must be grueling watching me try and run the computer. I can't get it to work. I don't know what's going on. I'm missing out on your conversation here. Okay, there. Jeez. There we go. How about that, you guys? Can you see it? Isn't that cool? So this is what he's cooking bread in. And he cooks his bread for the family. It sounds like, maybe not daily. There's a picture of some bread he cooked in there. How about that? So cool. I just love it. Is that it? Our Belgian Gulch sounds like here? Are you talking about us trying to run the computer? Sometimes I'm good at it. Sometimes I just can't seem to figure it out. So that's Dominic's stove, and I love that. So we've got someone here who's been waiting very patiently. Pablo, let's get to yours. Do you mind if I show your photos? And I'm going to call you Pablo here on the stream, but so let's go to this and see if I can... No, it doesn't work if I do it like that. Let's see, what do I got to do here? I probably just got to close the other one. So, Pablo Cruz has a place where he wants to build... Wouldn't love it. I think, did you mean would love it? Wouldn't love it. Should I close it? We don't want to look at your pictures? So, Pablo Cruz has a place he wants to put in a stove, and he's got, it looks like a fireplace. Okay, cool. I didn't want to show your space without your permission, but I thought that's what we talked about. So he's got this awesome space with this fireplace. By the way, Pablo, what a character there in the corner. I love that guy. I can tell that one's full of mischief. So cool. So this is just a beautiful, beautiful hearth, and it would be a great place for a stove. Here's my question for you. Were you asking about building a stove and retaining all of this rock work, or were you asking about building a stove and demolishing all of this? Because that's the part I wasn't clear on. If you want to make it fit within this, within the existing framework, then that's possible. Or if we're talking about just sort of a whole new build from scratch. I wasn't sure what you were asking about. Like if you would like to keep this rock work and this hearth and all of that, which I think is possible. If you'd like to. Yeah, to try and retain it. Okay, that's what I thought. And then, so he says that on the back side of this wall is his kitchen, which is there, and that's his stove. So, Pablo, it's an interesting question, and I don't know, to be honest with you, that we're going to have a great solution that hits all of your goals. And the reason I say that is because trying to fit a cook stove into this spot, well, I mean, you could put it in there sideways, I suppose, and have the rest of the body protrude back out into this space. Here's what I'm trying to say. You're either going to have a fire on this side or you're going to have a fire on that side. That's the first thing to think about, is that if you have a cook stove in the kitchen, you probably are going to have the fire in the kitchen. because that's really the only way you're going to get that cook stove with the really hot temperatures is if the fire is right below the cook stove. Now you could build the fire box on this side and then you could have a cooktop on the other side, but it wouldn't be a real hot cooktop. You could have like the top of a bell over there, and you could probably boil water, but it wouldn't be like a cooktop that you could really use. It probably wouldn't replace your electric stove, unfortunately. So, it's a tough situation to try and fit a mass heater into a space like this because you've got all that stuff there. You've got a lot of mass there. So, to be honest with you, I kind of think your best bet, if you really want to do some tinkering, is to do something like David Swanson did. I think for someone who has a built hearth, your best bet is to try and do something like a insert that will maximize extracting the heat out of that space and blowing it into your living space, rather than trying to store it in some masonry there, because none of those materials are probably appropriate, to be honest. That stone facade is probably fastened to some hardy backer, and you certainly don't want to heat that whole thing up too much. You can to some extent, but you'd have to build a whole brick stove inside of it. So I suspect that it'd be fun to say tear your house apart, tear your kitchen apart. The other thing you could do is you could do something else. You could tear the kitchen apart, and you could build yourself a beautiful cook stove in the kitchen, and it could vent through this chimney. But you wouldn't. I don't think you'd have much going on here. You'd probably just brick over that opening or leave it defunct and plumb into it. You wouldn't want to share the chimney. You wouldn't want to retain this as a burning area. So I hate to be a disappointment, but I just, in your space, especially given that you got a basement underneath it, I think your better bet would be to try and go with a lower mass setup that maximizes heat extraction. So whether it's something like David Swanson built, which he built my riserless core in an insert with a blower attachment, or whether you put in a modern insert, or whether you, like I said, go the other direction, go into the kitchen and say, here's where I'm going to build a beautiful wood cook stove and I'm going to go into it all the way. You could absolutely do that, but you would need to, it would render this useless because you'd use this chimney without really changing any of the rest of this. You just tap it in the chimney. So those are my opinions. There are ways you could do other stuff. I'm definitely not being too adventurous, but that's my best advice to you in terms of you having a beautiful home and not wanting to destroy it and wanting, reasonable projects and getting reasonable heat. I think that David's solution is really neat because it doesn't really, if you were ever to leave or sell or change your mind or whatever, you can go back to this in a heartbeat. So I really like that about David's solution. So let's see. There's that. Let's see. Okay, so we should go back to the emails here because I think I still have a few more to catch up on, believe it or not. But that was the bulk of it. Oh, thank you, Augustus, for emailing me the Peter's article. I'm not going to read it right now, but if there was something that was in there that I didn't cover that you were specifically curious about, please direct me to it or hit it up in chat, and we'll see if we can't cover it. So Pete says hi from Spain. You guys, he's on holiday, it sounds like. So hey, Pete, thanks for checking in, saying hi. He can't be here in the chat today. So that's pretty cool. So here's a question from Tall Shadow. And this is a pretty neat one. I don't know if we'll go into it. We've been going for about an hour, so we might have to come back to this one with details. But he's asking about the graphs of the testo results. And he says they've always been fairly elusive and was wondering if I could give a crash course for us with some interpretations of what the results mean. And so he says there's 4 lines on the graph, T-stack. And you got that right, Tall Shadow. That is the temperature of the exhaust gases. Lower the better for efficiency, he asks. And, and then he goes on to say, but not so low that it will cause drafting problems. And So there's the issue: is where is so low that it will cause drafting problems, right? So that's going to be different for every stove on every day, in every minute of the day. Those conditions are always changing. So I don't think you can really put a number on, or you can't just say lower is better. As a matter of fact, there's a threshold for all stoves, and it's going to be a little bit different depending on what your dew point is, that day, and all these other things. So no right is better for efficiency, and what that is hard to say. But as a general rule of thumb, we kind of want to stay above boiling condensing, right? As soon as we start getting into condensing liquid, it's condensing vapor, condensing water, then we start to really change the energy curves. We start to really pull energy out of the air. We start to dramatically cool, like the flue, and we can create real dramatic differences in draft really quick. So as a general rule of thumb, we kind of want stack temps above boiling. I mean, that's loose, You can be below there when you're starting up. You can be below there when it's getting there. But as a general rule of thumb, that's sort of a good mid-range. Like a pretty good stove burning at full tilt, if the whole thing's warm, if it's below 300 degrees, you're doing pretty well, to be honest. At some point, that heat's going to creep into that flue. So there isn't really one good number. It depends on how long, there's a time factor too. Like, what's the temperature in the first hour? What's the temperature in the 6th hour of burning? And, one's good. The other one could be good, but they wouldn't be the same number. So hopefully that makes sense. So the next number is oxygen. The next line on the charts is O2. Not sure whether high or low is better. So in burning solid fuel, we are always going for... Oh, Playground asks about Celsius. No, Playground, I'm sorry. I was speaking Fahrenheit. So 212 boiling in Fahrenheit. So 300 degrees Fahrenheit is sort of a good mid-range. That'd be more like, I think... 150 Celsius, something like that, 180. I can't remember exactly where. I know it's not half, but it breaks in there somewhere. So, so what's a fix if your bell is too small or your T stack is too high? If, for some reason you're not extracting enough heat. Well, Augustus, this is exactly why. For instance, when I think it was Felicity was on the chat a few weeks ago, when we talked about the tiny stove, and I said, you got to have mass. You just have to have a thermal battery, or you should have a box stove. And this is why I'm often, you'll find me saying rocket stoves with no thermal battery aren't always that great. David Swanson, I think, has a great implementation of one. But for the most part, if you're blowing heat out the chimney, then you're wasting heat. And without thermal mass, it's hard to capture a runaway freight train of a rocket stove. So what is a fix if your bell is too small? Anything to extract heat. So you can use those magic heat reclaimers. They're just like they're like a heat exchanger you put on your chimney. Oh, that's my koi feeding time alarm. So they're tubes that run through your chimney with a fan behind them, like a heat exchanger on your chimneys. You can cool the flue gases that way, get more heat into the room. Those things are generally a terrible idea because they create creosote. In a rocket stove, they're probably okay. But basically, Augustus, what I'm trying to say is you need more extraction. You need more thermal mass. You need a bigger bell. You need... you could just do horizontal sections of your chimney. That bleeds a ton of heat. Add columns in the bell, right? There's a million ways you can do it. Add a cooktop, right? Remove the insulation above the riser. There's a ton of things you can do. Just put more heat into the space, retain less heat in the exhaust gases. That's your goal. If your thing's too small and you're trying to make a tent heater and you're finding out you can't do it, the chimney's 800 degrees, which is what I found out in our little sailboat heater, wood fire burner thingies, you need to find another solution if that's what the case is. If your chimneys are always hot, you're just burning, blowing heat out the chimney, and it's dangerous. So that wasn't supposed to be scolding Augustus, just letting you know that's kind of how the thought process goes. So coming back to, I'm going to finish answering this question, you guys, about the charts. So CO is carbon monoxide. Oh, O2 is oxygen. Not sure whether high or low is better. I didn't even get there, did I? Jeez, you guys. So stoichiometric burning is what we're going for. The optimal blend of air and fuel. And optimal blend would be O2 burning away to 0. Okay, we burned up all the oxygen and it matched the amount of fuel we had perfectly. That would be stoichiometric combustion. It never happens in solid fuel burners. I don't know if it happens anywhere, but it never happens in solid fuel burners. As the air starts to push lower, some fuel starts to escape without being mixed. So we've only got a little air left in here to mix that can still combust with this stuff, to catalyze it basically. But some's getting away before it gets mixed because we didn't have enough air in there. So where that number is a real critical factor with how efficient your stove is. Peter is always shooting for the lowest O2 possible. I think, we've seen numbers, we can see really low numbers, but usually those low numbers come when the stove is blowing black smoke and overfueled. So there's a balance. Low oxygen doesn't necessarily mean efficiency on itself, in and of itself. But what you want is that oxygen to be coming down, and he can get down to like 7 or 8% and maintain stability. And when I say stability, I'm talking about the flat line, and I'm talking about the flat line only in the carbon monoxide. Because when the carbon monoxide is flat, down low, it means you're burning it consistently and completely. When you have it spiking all over the place, it means some stuff's getting through. Whether your oxygen dropped too low and that stuff got passed without any oxygen to combust it, whether you didn't have enough turbulence, whether there was not enough time in the burn chamber and it escaped without burning up, you've got something getting through. And so as that oxygen starts to push lower, you'll start to get more smoke when you break below a certain threshold. Where that is depends on the stove. My stoves tend to run at much higher oxygen. I can still get a fairly low efficiency number, but I won't get as low as Peter's because my oxygen's going to be higher. But what it does is that's how I get that broad stability curve. The oxygen line is almost like a volatility measure. As you get closer to stoichiometric, the burn gets way more volatile. You have way more chances of spikes and uneven burns and inefficiencies, but you also have the ability to push into that really high risk zone, or whatever you want to call it, where you have ultimate efficiency. And that's what Peter's chasing, and that's why he goes for that ultimate low O2. I ride that middle line. Medium oxygen gives me the lowest carbon monoxide and the flat line. Now the carbon monoxide, I keep a close eye on because to me it's an indicator. It is a very, very high temperature. It requires really high temperatures to burn completely. So it's a good indicator that you're burning everything, all the fuel available. So if you have no CO left, you've pretty much burned everything you can in that fuel. So that's really where I'm looking for efficiency. I want to burn all the fuel available. I don't mind if I heat up a little extra air and blow it out the chimney. That's how that affects your efficiency. That's how that hurts your efficiency. To me, that's benign efficiency hurting. Yes, it's robbing me of energy, but it's not hurting other people. Right? That's where I kind of get a little bit testy over the whole efficiency dialogue, because there's different parts of it. And if you can be just as efficient in mine in terms of how much energy of the fuel you're burning are you harvesting. You can be at 90% on a stove with 0 parts per million carbon monoxide, and you could be 90% efficient at a stove burning 500 parts per million carbon monoxide. I'm going to be on the side of the stove that might be less efficient. I didn't say that right, but you know what I'm trying to say. It might be less efficient, but burning the carbon monoxide more completely. The reason it's less efficient is because it's got a little more excess air. So it's heating some air, blowing it out the chimney. So you're wasting a little energy, but you're not blowing unburned fuel in the shape of tars and particulates and things like that out the chimney. So that's really the gist of the testograph. You can read a lot of different ways. Different of us, some of us chase different things, right? Like I said, Peter's always going to be chasing that nth degree. He wants to see 99.9% efficiency, or whatever the maximum possible is. I want a long, low, flat line of carbon monoxide through multiple burns. When I do this, it means, when you load the fuel, you usually get a spike. But if you can tame that spike quickly and go back to flat and efficient, go out of the efficiency zone and back to flat and efficient, and do that all day long, that's what I'm looking for. A normal batch box that's designed to run at peak efficiency on one burn simply just doesn't do that. It has one great burn, and then if you were to keep loading it, because you're working outside of its designed parameters. It isn't meant to be run that way. And if you do run it that way, like I did, you will overfuel in the beginning of the load, and it will not recover for a long time. So you don't get the flat line. So that's the testo in a nutshell. The flat line isn't the end-all be-all, but you will notice if you go to Donkey's board and look at people with testo's results, you will notice that has become... It isn't. Peter's much less ruled by it than I am, and others have, sort of sought it as well. But Peter definitely seeks just the efficiency. And he does get low CO. I mean, you don't get one without the other. But I just look at a different indicator. So that was a big topic there. So I hope that was helpful. I'm going to go back to your chats here real quick. Permaculture Playground says, do you know of anyone with a testo in the south of Portugal? I don't off the top of my head, Permaculture Playground, but I do think that Yassin in France, and I'm not sure, someone may know his website. It's a French name, if I remember correctly, but if you just type in Yassin Batchbox or Yassin Rocket Stove, Yasin, you might find his website, and you could contact him, and I'm quite sure he has a testo, and he's really interested in all sorts of, he's a master of these things, so he's got his own really cool designs and plans that are out there. I think he's got free plans, so he's a great guy, definitely worth looking into. Let me get on the questions here. And Permaculture Playground says, I'm lacking mass for sure. Even a 1/2 inch of steel cooktop on top of my bell and a bit of horizontal section on my flue. Yeah. Yep. Mass is important. Okay, Tall Shadow's still with us. Cool. He's running behind on the chat a little bit. So just getting caught up on the chat. Yeah. Oh yeah. 300 degrees Fahrenheit is about 149 C. Okay. Perfect. That's kind of what I thought. Okay. So let me check back on the emails, you guys, and I'm confident I'm going to miss some. Let's see. We did Belden Gulch. We did Dominic. We did Polly. And Tall Shadow. Yeah, okay. I think we did it. Polly, you can see some pictures of David's build if you go back to couple weeks back. You'll have to scan through a few of them, but we did go over David's build with a lot of the photos in a recent chat. So, and you guys can probably get in touch as well, hopefully, and maybe send some emails back and forth. But yeah, Pablo, he's got a build that might be a really good start for you, and also feel free to email me and I could forward them as well, Pablo, if that helps. So you guys, it's been about an hour. I apologize. I do need to get running today. But man, you guys, great chat today. Thank you guys so much for all these awesome questions. And yeah, did I cover that? I mean, I don't need to run this very second. I want to make sure that I got you guys covered. I think I went through all of the stuff that came in this week over the email, and I think that's got her done. So I'll probably wrap it up here, you guys. I really appreciate all you guys being here as always, man. Thank you guys so much for all your support and all the emails. Can't tell you how awesome it is to hear from you guys every week and see these builds coming together. I'm going to continue to share builds as we get them coming in. I think as we get closer to fall, we'll probably start to see a lot more. And I've got a few that I'm really, really looking forward to sharing with you as they come together here. Some that you haven't seen yet. So all right, you guys. Well, that's enough for today. Thank you guys so much for your time, all of you as well, and really appreciate it. So, all right, you guys, I'm going to hit the outro. Augustus, thanks, man. That's so nice. So, yeah, Permaculture Playground, glad you're here, man. Really appreciate it. So, all right, you guys, that's enough for me. I'm going to hit the video, and we'll see you next week. We'll do it again next week. Ray, thanks for being here, my friend. Mark, Winker, all of my friends. Mark, I already said that. I'm not going to be able to get all your names. So, thanks, you guys. See you guys next week. Have a great week, okay?